Ṣẹ̀kẹ̀rẹ̀ lọ bá jó, ṣẹ̀kẹ̀rẹ̀ lọ bá jó, olúwa mi ò dìde ojó
The Ashen Forge.
ṣẹ̀kẹ̀rẹ̀.
Ashen's the Ashen Forge.
Hello and welcome to the Ashen Forge. I am Phantom X, joined as always by Diggs and the legendary Neurotoxin. How y'all doing?
Doing all right.
Great. Sleepy.
Sleepy, yeah. I am a little bit tired. I will admit that. Diggs, and yes, I'm going to blame it on you, kept me up far too late last night. So, playing Nightingale, which has actually been fun.
It means it was fun.
Yeah, it's been an experience. Early access game for sure. There's some quality of life things that could be much better in time. Teaming up together, I can't see his health, for example. I have no idea.
You
Trading
don't like
doesn't
to see
exist.
health. You don't like to see health.
Why not? I'm typically a healer.
I thought you said you didn't like to see bars.
Well, if you can't see health, do you see depictions of the person getting
I
their
didn't
face
say
beat
that.
up? I mean, I suppose you could play like Doom and Wolfenstein without health because you can tell from how bloody the dude's face is how low the health is. But I can't. Can I look at like a beat down Diggs and be like, "Golly, you got cuts and bruises all over. Let me heal you," or is it just, "Oh, that fine gentleman over there just collapsed for some reason. Looks pristine and clothes and all, and just boop." Like, I don't know. There's got to be some feedback system if you're not going to give health bars, unless you don't give that information for some other, technical mechanical reason, or you need to get an item that allows you to see people's health. But I don't know. All I've done
Yeah.
is download and install it, and I guess purchase it. But I haven't gotten a chance to launch, and I don't know when I will.
There are health bars, but the combat ends pretty quickly, so you can, you know, by the time you look over and see that the person is in need of help, they're already down, but you can walk over and help them back up. If their companion has not died, their NPC companion will also bring them back. So it's not really super necessary. You're not really trying to act like a healer for your co-op partner. You'll just see that they're down and go over and res them, basically.
This sounds very much like a single player game you're allowed to play with other people.
Well, the cool thing is that you've got your companion NPC, so you can keep going back and forth. Often you can go back and forth, healing each other, resing each other. So
Did find, I think it's not an enchantment. I don't know, but there's actually a thing you can put on your armor that heals your friends, your allies, while you're doing damage. So there's some form of a healer, I guess. But yeah, I mean, there's still a lot to be done with Nightingale. So, but
well, it's a survival game. It's not an RPG. And feels very much like a survival game. No, but I'm gonna be making a lot of parallels because
It's got a gear score
doing a
rating
lot.
system. It's an RPG.
No,
I'm sorry.
It's a survival game.
It's a mix.
It's a survival game with some RPG elements, but it's very much fundamentally a survival game. Yeah, so the cool thing is that one, of course, it's UE5, so the graphics are great. But I'm really loving how the biomes change. Uh, the cards that you play can significantly change the biome that you're in. So you'll see new monsters that you haven't seen. You'll see new points of interest that you haven't seen. Um, and that is actually giving me some hopes for it's giving me a vision of what Ashes of Creation could be like in terms of when a new race takes over the aesthetics of a node, how that's going to change, how it can change the content that's available. Because it's kind of significant. Um, you think you'll know what it's like playing in your biome, and then go visit a friend's similar biome, like it's still a swamp or still a forest, I guess. And I'm like, I haven't seen this stuff before. Um, so even for the exploration and replay value, and um, it's it's a lot of fun, and I can see how Ashes can evolve to do that. I have a better vision of how Ashes can evolve to do that.
Yeah, it's okay. It's taken some time out of Skull and Bones, so which I also think is a very enjoyable game, despite the shit that it's been given by a lot of people. So, anyways, we are not here to talk about either of those games. We are here to talk about Ashes of Creation and its commissions live stream, which is on Wednesday. So, a lot of fun questions, a lot of ideas behind commissions. Because if you're unsure of what commissions are, they're basically quests. Um, there's generic commissions, which they say are system driven. So you can think of just the system itself, NPCs giving out quests that give you experience, give the node experience. And then you have mayoral commissions as well. Interestingly enough, these two entries have very little information on the wiki. So that's going to be expanded quite a bit come Wednesday. But mayoral ones also can be completed by citizens, non-citizens alike. Those who are citizens add mandates, which can then be used for other things. But also, again, players get what node currency, node rep experience. The node itself, I think, also gets rep and commodities and things. So, yeah. So, from what we know about, excited about commissions. Actually, I'm just curious, even this stream, like, is this worth an entire show? There's some suspicions about what, is there some extra stuff they're not telling us coming about? I think that's wishful thinking, but yeah, first thoughts?
Definitely looking to see more of the details of the stuff that they've brushed over in the past two streams related to commissions. There's a whole lot about it that is still a big old question mark, and we can try to infer things from the stuff that we've seen, but I'm hoping it'll be both illuminating this next stream for what the systems are going to be, as well as revealing a greater breadth and extent to what's been presented to us in terms of what commissions can be, how they get issued, how they can be accessed, successful failure terms, like overachiever, underachiever, like, oh, well, we needed 40 rubies, but you brought 30, so like we'll give you a little bit or something. And yeah, again, like it's been talked about, the idea of this being the form of dailies and weeklies, I would say New World kind of did this a little bit, where it isn't necessarily an NPC that's giving the things or like a mayor that's setting the things, but you'll go to the town board and it'll give you some stuff to do, and if you do it, it'll help bolster the town and help it improve. And if you don't, then it's fine. You can do whatever you want. It's a game. You don't have to build up the place. Maybe you don't like the place, but it's a little bit more, I think, important for something like Ashes of Creation, where it isn't just this very silly mechanic of, yeah, well, it builds up, and if it's too good for too long, it gets a giant NPC raid or something. Something's going to knock that town down one way or another. So, get it while the getting's good, and then be ready to rebuild it. I don't know if that loop has changed since I stopped playing it a while ago, but that was the thing that made me not really want to spend time doing the boards. Instead, it was because those quests and quests in general made it easier to gain experience faster, and you want to get the experience so you can see the higher content and this and that and the other of the general MMO loop. So I'm thinking the idea that this is actually part of investing in something that's meant to be long term. And yeah, sure, it's going to get knocked over at some point. If it gets too big, other people are going to be gunning for it so they can build up their metropolis. If it's on the smaller side, maybe someone just wants to knock it over so they can have different people installed when it gets built back up again for different racial influency stuff. So it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. That's more than just an initial first thought, I suppose. Diggs, what do you think?
I think nothing. I'm waiting.
I'm
Nothing
sure
at
you
all.
think things, but you don't have to say them.
No, usually say what I think, but I'm reactionary, so I'm waiting for them to tell us, and then I'll have opinions.
Yeah, this seems fairly lackluster to me, but that's where I say some people feel like maybe we'll get a special show of something else. Since I think the one that keeps coming to mind for some folks is that since it does involve node experience, do we get to see a node level really, and for the first time, something like that? Uh, Even that, I'm not sold on.
We've seen nodes level before.
We've
Well,
seen, yeah, in Alpha 1, but it was a very
yeah,
simplified sort of thing. It didn't have any of the generative properties where they could be, different or dynamically different,
yeah.
based on the influence and that sort of stuff. As it manifested in Alpha 1, it was basically, oh, dwarves were the main factor in Winstead instead of humans. Great. You don't get the same amount of content because we didn't write as much for dwarves. So, sorry, you got to go to some other place and bump it up with humans if you want to try to find those NPCs again. Dynamic!
Yeah.
Now, that's not intended to be the case. It would be different but equivalent sort of opportunities, perhaps, or dynamically different and not equivalent opportunities for who would have built the places up differently. But we didn't really have all that built in Alpha 1. So, yeah, we haven't actually seen the whole of the process in full, all the
Mhm.
gears in motion, all of the PvP interactions associated with it. That was all not an Alpha 1 thing.
Although I will not be super sold on that either. I always go back to feeling very burned with EverQuest Next and a gameplay that was demos, and so I will not be satisfied to see a node quote level. I will want to see like a multiple sets, like show me it leveling two different ways. Like, can we do that? Can you show me two different racial layouts, upon leveling? My guess is no to all those things, but um,
Can't do
I
otherwise,
it
mean,
in an hour and
they
a half.
might. That'd be a different live stream, probably.
yeah. I mean, who knows what their tools are, whether they can reset, move forward, like how quickly they can change things. But it's
Well,
live in video
that's gonna
editing
be a demo
times.
and not real gameplay, right?
I would take video editing just to show that they can actually go one way or the other, based off player decisions, and not just because they've scripted it to do that. In
How would
a
how would you tell the difference between video editing and scripting?
Well, you can't, but I have more confidence if they're actually showing two different things, versus just one. I mean, we've only seen Winstead. Like, what else is there's there? What else is there? We've seen one spot this entire time. Uh, so
I think we've seen 2 or 3, but
There were a few places you could build up in Alpha 1, but they built up mostly the same. And in the live streams, we have seen a start point and an end point that are two different towns. But with that Kalar aesthetic, they do just look the same. And unfortunately, I hate to say, but we keep on mentioning that the Kalar aesthetic looks very like plain and default. So seeing some other
tutor.
node types would be nice. Yeah, tutor is
Mhm.
very much the plain and default for a lot of like Western fantasy games.
Mhm.
Yeah, I just
Not even Western, like JRPGs will even use that style.
Yep.
that's what I want to see. I know it's a big ask, but I feel like if we're gonna truly be in Alpha 2 in what, it's March basically. So we have what, March, April, May, June, July, 6-ish months, and they still only have Winstead. I'm just curious about that. So Narc actually has some good comments and videos talking about some of the other things that they have shown. I think like desert and some of these other biomes that they really don't look like they are in any way like a gameplay loop. That it was just demoed. He could speak to it much better than I could, but um, it makes some very good points that truly out of players playing, all we have seen so far is Winstead. Um, so I
That's
don't know.
been,
Yeah,
the
but that
bulk
was 4
majority.
years ago. And look, a lot can happen in 4 years.
What do you mean? When they showed
They've
that.
had plenty of time. They've had
Oh, I know.
plenty of time to develop.
I mean, we only know what they tell us, but I don't know.
They
That's what
were
I.
planning they were originally planning to release in the amount of time that they've taken since Alpha 1.
So commissions, though, I did comment on this. Yes, I see this as dailies and weeklies. I mean, there's actually some specific text. Let me see if I can actually pull it back up, because mayors can only set a certain number at a time, and they are time limited. So again, that to me is sort of a weekly. These are what we're going to set for this week, which is interesting considering that mayors only get 4 weeks before they have to recycle themselves. But um,
Maybe.
Well, I think
So
part of
you
that is that that's the mayor getting some agency to direct policy and stuff, but that a lot of it's also coming from the other influences that led to it being built up and what kind of node it is, and maybe the major players have a big say in things too.
you haven't said whether or not dailies and weeklies are a bad thing or a good thing, because it kinda sounded like a bad thing the way you said
I
it there.
mean, you can dream and
I
hope,
don't
right?
know.
Um,
I don't know, so you have to
I mean, I
let us
get it.
know.
I understand part of it. When I think of growth, I get so tired of dailies and weeklies from World of Warcraft. I don't know. I just the idea just being non-dynamic has seems old, but at the same time, I get it. Nodes are probably something you want to gate their growth a little bit. So, if you're going to primarily have them level through things like this, through commissions, dailies, and weeklies, because they also comment that players can only have so many, these commissions at one time. I get it. It's also a limiting factor. You can kind of artificially slow the growth of nodes by doing it this way. But I don't know. I'm
Wondering
just
how
wanting
much of
more
that
dynamic.
is I wonder how much of that is a per node basis or total overall. Like, if I've got the same commission to kill 10 big cats anywhere in the world, don't have to bring the skins back or anything, and I get 3 of them from 3 different nodes, I just kill those 10 big cats. Well, now it's done. If that's the sort of thing they're trying to limit and curtail, or if it's that they just don't want somebody having, you know, all of these commissions, they'll be outstanding. And that's another thing I wonder about. If you take a commission and you don't act on it, is there any penalty either to you or for the node? Because if the node's like, yeah, whoa, we've already got like 50 dudes going out and getting us quartz right now. Nobody else needs to go out and get us quartz. And those 50 dudes are like, yeah, I'm just going to shit on this commission here until they run out of quartz. Like, is that one of those sort of things where there is a limit to how many times it can be issued and accepted, and then there's a component to that as well?
But if you do that, then you'll get a bad reputation and you won't have any friends and you'll be KOS and they'll make you enemy of the state.
Yes, I've heard these things before, and then when it gets knocked over, you're not an enemy anymore, and people love you again. Oh, those were the old times. That city was burnt down and rebuilt since then. Nobody cares. The fact that you were even here is what matters.
you, yeah, Gaul says your guild will kick you if you do one too many commissions. Yeah. Well, it's interesting that
Not
this
if you
is.
do too many, it's if you accept too many and don't do them.
Yeah, that actually is an interesting question. That is one of them that I had wrote down from the forums asking that very question. If I do not succeed, is there a penalty of some sort, either to me or the node? Again, we talk risk versus reward. If you are out to stop mayoral commissions, can you penalize the node not just by preventing the quest from being turned in, but also having a penalty applied to the node? Because one of the benefits it does say you will get is through mayoral commissions is also buffs and things to the node. So, um, but the fact that you
Yeah.
can have citizens and non-citizens alike complete them is also interesting.
Well, if you're a citizen of somewhere else that you want to build that area up so it's big enough to build your place up to the next node because it's, a tier 4 with a bunch of crossroads surrounding it, you want to try bumping that back up. Yeah, I could see going to other places nearby and it's like, yes, vassal, I shall help thee.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely gives you a reason. It definitely adds some camaraderie together, even if it's outside of your node. If it's people you know or for some reason will benefit you, the fact that you can go in and level their node up for them is I like that. It also makes sense to not let them have mandates since they are not citizens of the node. So
Yeah, I can also see more of what the player specializes in. For some reason, I would think do near places are going to have more commissions looking for, rock and stone and metals and stuff. So
Mhm.
if you're a miner by trade, you might want to go there even if you're not a resident because they've got the things that you're more specialized at. That just for min maxing your output relative to your skills, I could see people doing that. Likewise, I don't know. I don't even know what Pyre want, like piles of poop and fertilizer and seeds and stuff, because they do all the rest with magic. They don't want wood. That's a sin. You don't cut trees down. What are you doing? They grow everything and tell the trees how they want it to act for them. Hey, you, tree over there, drop a log that's like this for me. All right.
You can bring them one of those that dropped branches that the tree has freely given you.
Well, I asked it real nicely and it didn't say no, so I got to chopping.
say no to you.
And answer quickly enough.
Yeah, that too.
I'll step back a little bit and say the mayoral ones I think is are neat. The fact that you do have players that are elected selecting specific quests. I should also probably say I would assume they're not going to all be weeklies. That there will be probably varying different degrees of length with them. Would be my guess, but
Yeah. I think some of them, it might not necessarily be daily or weekly so much as it's up until it gets done. And if it doesn't get done, it won't stay
that's
around
true.
unless something of a higher priority comes up and it is now of a lower priority. Uh, if there's a commission, if you need 50 chicken eggs and over the past week and a half you've only gotten 40 chicken eggs, you might still need those 10 chicken
Hmm.
eggs. Or it could be that chicken eggs are like already past the part of the season you're in and now you need I don't know, wolf pelts or something, so it gets swapped out. If you still had the commission, you can probably finish it, but if you hadn't already grabbed it, then you just got to move on to the next one, or it expired and just it's
Yeah.
poof.
Well, I would assume the mayor can also cancel and restart since there's a gold cost to it. Because that otherwise, why would there be a gold cost? And again, I assume there's going to be varying degrees of gold cost between different commissions. Some will cost more than others. So,
I would expect castles are doing something on a weekly basis since they have to build up the military nodes week after week in lead up to the once a month castle siege.
Yeah.
Castle sieges. That's gonna be an interesting. I wonder if you can commission for people to join in castle sieges. It's like, hey, go defend our castle, and we'll reward you from this specific location.
I suspect you're gonna want to have people, somebody, most likely your guild members, but you're gonna want to have somebody supporting the defense week to week so that you have something to defend. And those are going to require tasks and resources and caravans and
Yeah. This reminds me very, very much of EverQuest 2 writs and city tasks. For those who are unaware of EverQuest 2, which was the greater of the two games back in 2004, I will always say other than World of Warcraft. But anyways, um, you
but you
had,
didn't explain anything about what they were.
and
So
that's what
what
I'm about
were
to do.
writs? Okay.
So writs are it's, again, simple sort of quests. You can have that a city task person will give you, gives you rep for that wherever you do it at, gives you status points that you can use to buy things, open ups. The more you do, the more you have access to better either mounts or gear or housing or things like that. Um, so it essentially like dailies, although writs at the time did not, I don't think, had any sort of maximum that you could do. It was just a constant back and forth. There were also guild writs and things you would do in groups.
Yes, adventure writs, trade skill writs,
Trade
and
skill too.
guild writs.
Yeah. Guilds actually initially you could level D-level. So you had to make sure you were doing plenty of your guild tasks and writs to keep your level from going backwards. They removed that, I think,
They
once.
even had level caps and limits to your access to writs.
Mhm.
Uh, Quests offered a change every 5 levels of experience. For example, from levels 10 to 14, the Kino's Guard would offer you 2 specific writs. Once you've turned level 15, those 2 are Vamos, and you've got a new set of 3 that you can do.
Yeah, so that would be your system generated. Now, obviously, there's more complexity here with node buffs and just node experience being involved, but that's just what it reminds me of. And as we are all aware, many people from SOE/Daybreak have made their way through Intrepid over the years. So
The lucky ones.
mhm. I enjoyed Ritz. Again, they were a fun way to play, but that was back in 2004. So, um, anyways,
What made writs enjoyable to play in a way that the dailies in WoW were not?
well, I mean that was before WoW, so I don't know. If I kept playing that, it could have very well been the same
Oh,
thing.
okay.
So,
All right.
It looks like the limit on some of them, in some ways, like the ones from NPCs, like the Quest NPCs one that I just mentioned, that makes it so it isn't exactly dailies because there's a limit to how many of them you can do
mhm.
in that level range, and that's a nice way to do it too, to some extent, personalizing it to the character based on their level of experience. Now that also, that brings up a good question I hadn't thought about. Are there going to be different terms and conditions for people accepting commissions based on their trade skill level and their character level, or is it going to be, come one, come all, take it, and if it's too dangerous for you, tough cookies, you shouldn't have done it. You should read what you're doing instead of just clicking everything. That's a good thing, by the way, in general. For this game, read, read every last thing. If you pick ones all across, just, press A and go to the next thing, I'm pretty sure NPCs are just going to be like, whatever, this guy isn't even listening to me. Yeah, go, kill some stuff. I'll give you some money, whatever. Instead of giving you more context or telling you where the den is at, that you could actually hunt them down at. Um, yeah, the differentials in what you can accept, and I could see that, like asking somebody who's not a gatherer or processor to bring a certain material, then you're going to be limited. You're going to have to buy it from someone who actually is. But if you are somebody that's that kind of gatherer processor, sure, you'll probably have enough skill from one or the other to be able to get it done, because there's a gradation of how many grandmaster, master, etc. And I would imagine, at least in the short term, nothing more than like the third tier of trade skill is going to be too exclusive for a lot of these things, for a lot of gameplay.
Sheridan says in chat that WoW dailies got old very fast because you had to do them to be competitive.
Well, once you're at
And
max level, what else do you have to do to be competitive?
PvP.
What? Why? Why
Raids,
gate good
ra
things behind PvP?
raids and dungeons.
Eh. Dungeons weren't PvP though.
No, I added on PvP
Infiltrate
and
other
raids and
guilds
dungeons.
and destroy them.
Oh, yeah, well there is that, but like, oh no, we lost a bunch of potions and we, busted half the bosses,
I
so
didn't
why
say
come back?
steal. I said destroy. Seeds of
No,
destruction.
I mean them burning half their potions because they've got somebody messing around, not that you walk in and take all their potions.
Yeah.
That was one of the guilds I was good friends with. Their policy, if you wanted to join the raid as an add-on and be able to get access to some of the loot, well, you gotta be ready to throw down 100 gold if you cause the group to wipe, because we're gonna need to get all them potions and everything back. And one of my friends who was a developer didn't tell them. I didn't even know her at the time. She was coming in as a cleric and was like, yeah, sure, whatever. She wasn't the one causing people to wipe.
Well,
Yeah.
that's what DPS meters are for.
Yeah, I get, well, DPS meters, there's a certain amount of thing where, I look at basketball games, and if you look at the tail of the tape and you look at just who's scoring the points versus looking at the whole of the game, it's like, yeah, that guy's scoring the points, but that guy there is getting all the assists because he can look one way and throw the ball the other, and everybody's thinking he's going this way when the ball's going that way. He's just playing them like a bunch of fools. And yeah, he might not have the points, but those assists, those are basically his points. He just gave it to someone else.
Computers don't make mistakes. That's why you need to look at the data.
Well, I don't know that there's much more to say about commissions. I'm more so looking forward to the questions. So,
Yeah, well, I actually have a few questions
oh,
about
go for it.
commission. So, kind of a little early in preparation for this one, I had kind of thought about a few things. First, are there forms of commissions or non-mayoral things that players can launch for their own needs and goals, such as, if I have a freehold, can my freehold issue commissions or an equivalent of commissions? And likewise, can my freehold interface with the commission system of the town such that we can work together in some manner? You guys don't have to answer that one. I just
Yeah.
want to know in the
It'd
next
be
stream.
fun. Yeah, that would be fun.
I
I don't know that there's intention there.
it will be amusing, um, because gamers are not designers, and you'll have they don't know anything about balance. So expect to see some super, 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 super easy. What did we used to call it? Monty Hall DMing, back in the day. Expect to see some crazy stuff if you give gamers access to helping other players with quests and tasks.
Yeah.
It seems like it'd be a real funny one if you can do a caravan from a freehold to the town that you're, the node for you, that will still count as if you had taken it from somewhere further. Or if it's going to be a hard limit, no, you have to get it from a node outside of this one. You can't just cart over stuff a quarter mile from your freehold. No idea how that's going to work. If the requirement is just we need 2,000 stone to come in on a cart, however it's going to do it, that seems like something you should be able to launch from your freehold if you got 2,000 stone sitting around.
Though my first thought is people would probably figure allowing that sort of a system, is where does RMT come in? If you can give me one stone block and I will give you 1 million gold, sort of process. Otherwise, it would be fun to see. I would love to be able to set play. Give me a set up players. Well, we'll have stalls. I mean that's essentially what your quest would be like, right? So go give me this and I'll pay you X amount. I guess that would be pretty much what unless want the opportunity to give other things. I guess barter system or gear or something like that. But
There's something about using the glint purchases from point A to point B that sounds like it's part of the mechanic that I don't know if it's going to be for everything or if it's just specific to one of those components, but it would make sense then if you need to get something that's a glint based purchase to that node from a different node, that you wouldn't be able to do it from your freehold, because I don't know if your freehold has access to glint other than perhaps maybe as a fuel source, and that you're just pouring it in and it's going to a sink.
Yeah, sounds fun. I doubt. I would guess that is not in the current schedule of things.
So we had kind of hinted to this earlier. When a commission fails or is not completed within a relevant period of time, what are the immediate and downstream effects of it, such as participants having reputation loss or allowing a vote-free tax increase? Well, we aren't getting these commissions done, so we got to extract wealth from the residents. What sort of things would happen, not just your immediate things that affect you personally, but affecting the node as a whole and the people in it as time goes on?
I mean, I don't personally want to see failure to do commissions have anything negative associated with it.
And maybe it's
I,
not
I,
even
I
necessarily on a personal level either, but if, collectively everyone fails to get it done.
And you're
yeah, I
you're
think what Euro is saying is that there's ramifications for failure. It's not just we're going to punish you. It's that uh, if people fail, then the node fails, and
yeah, well,
there's
yeah,
a
and
there's
that's
there's a chance it might not be standing anymore. So
well, and yes, that's where I think I just misunderstood that. That's where I go with that, is that I don't know that there needs to be a punishment associated with it, because just naturally by not completing them, you're not advancing. I don't know if you're getting punished, but you're not moving forward. You're losing gold, as well. So
more importantly, you're not getting the fast travel superpower if you don't provide the resources to build it.
yeah, so
And then you got to defend it. Um, so we kind of talked about this one too. While commissions are not daily quests, they will be regularly present for players to engage in. So do they effectively replace dailies with the sort of log in and do commissions or your node is falling behind motivator? Or will a node full of active players be expending and completing available commissions faster than they can be generated?
I mean, ultimately, it's just something to do, right?
There's plenty to do. You don't need commissions to have something to do in this game.
yeah, I
That's
guess
whole. That's the whole
Mm,
point of it.
we don't really know enough with mayoral.
supposedly.
whether they have a limited number of charges, only 50 people can turn it in. I guess we don't really know that. I think that makes sense when you read what we've been told so far, sort of how they work. The fact that you're getting rewards out of them, the node is, I would assume that's somehow quantifiable based off of who turned in what. So I don't know that we have a whole lot of information.
Not yet.
Yeah.
Hoping to see some.
What I'm going to be interested in it, they do say the players can only take so many commissions. I'm curious if that's just globally or if that's per node. Like, can you hop node to node and do 3 here, do 3 there? Or is it just a total per day?
I would think it
Good
would be
question.
global.
That is a good question. And then I suppose another thought that's come up in all of this, not a failure that we didn't get enough of this in enough time, so much as if you cancel a commission that you've accepted, what are the penalties? Or even better, will the penalties be described in the contract so you know if I take this, I'm putting my buns on the line for this, and if I don't follow through or at least attempt to, there's going to be some punishment for me down the road for it. Or if it's just going to be, well, I wasn't looking at what I was doing and I was just mashing buttons, grabbing commissions, and all of these are things that are like no way relevant to what I'm doing. If they cancel all of those, is it going to be a slap on the wrist, or is it just, all right, freed it up for someone else to do?
That's going to be a awesome form of PvP. Sabotaging. You've made the deal to complete this task, and I slash your tires so you can't complete it, and then you owe me because you failed. You owe me.
Well, I could try again. It's just I'm out the expense at that point.
Well, you always have to succeed, or else we'll make you enemy of the state.
I like this comment as
Clearly.
citizenship. So if you're doing commissions, yeah, I like this comment. Where citizen, if you're a citizen doing commissions, sorry, and I know that you're a citizen, you should get better rewards than if you're doing them at a node where you are not a citizen. That's a fair point to make.
That would make sense. Or at the very least, that you see more of the downstream benefits of the things being completed.
It also encourages you to do them at your node so that it continues to progress, and you also get bonus from
Yep.
that.
But I think, likewise, I don't want there to be a penalty for going upstream and downstream within the Dominion and vassals. That if I'm at a tier 4, I can go both to a tier 5 next door or a tier 3 next door and be able to do things and still get some amount of that increased benefit, because even though I'm not from that location, it's all contained within the same overall dominion. And so the local leadership and the ones who are running that place, whatever the highest one is in that sequence, you're still doing the work for them, and therefore, the rewards are to be conferred on you.
Although the
No,
experience trickles down, right? So
I don't know.
am I making that up? I thought if you were, working in, a capped node, you're still gaining experience. It's just trickling down that.
That might be right.
Are
Am
you trying to say Ashes is a pyramid scheme? Is that
no.
what you're trying
I
to say?
mean, it always was, but
Am I
let's not.
misremembering that? Is that
My
correct? I can't
memory's a
remember.
little hazy on that one too, so let's just leave that one
All right, you
alone.
keep talking. I'm going to look this up real quick.
All right. So,
Yes, I agree.
some other
Britches. Punishment for failure is failing. You failed. You don't get the reward. Your node does not get what it needs.
Bellwood says if your node is capped, the
Parent
extra
node.
XP goes to the parent node. Okay.
Yes, I knew it was one way. So Yeah, your
But I
experience
want
goes
to raise
somewhere.
up the crossroads, 5 miles that way. They need the help more than us. Oh, I guess I got to go down there and do commissions. Oh God, they're all low tier backwater commissions. Well, I've got a bunch of these materials hanging around anyway. That's
Oh,
It'll
this
be
also
interesting to see how that plays out and how people prioritize going up and down the ladder.
sorry. There's some good comments. So also yes, being incentivized to travel to distant nodes in order to gain access to specific loot tables. I assume that's where node rep will come in. You know, the you'll have node to node rep, but the players will also have rep within the node, which again reminds me of EQ2 writs. But so I would assume that if you go to a distant node and you do the time, you do the commissions. Again, it sounds very much like dailies and weeklies, but eventually you will reach a um, rep level where you'll have access to, if not goods, then I would hope maybe, crafting equipment or something like that. So I assume that's where the node rep will come in, along with things like, well, I guess I think you can get node rep not being a citizen, right? Because I would assume taxes might be affected
I
as well.
mean, there's some form of rep regardless.
So
Everything you do has consequence. So
Hmm.
there's that. Uh, so a question that I had for this episode are targeted strikes on corruption areas, local events, and local dungeons going to be engaged by the commission system, or are those exclusively player-driven engagements? Can I get a commission that says, "Whoa, there's too many orange crystals floating around southeast of here. We need y'all to arm up and grab some bows from Neuro because they're the best for the job and go down there and handle it." I'm going to be making anti-corruption bows if it isn't plainly obvious to everyone who's been watching by this point. That is my goal. Nakua
But I
Bowyer.
didn't understand the first part of the concept, so
So,
explain that to me.
are things like targeted strikes on corruption zones, targeted strikes on local events or like a world boss in the area, and targeted strikes on local dungeons like hitting Carfin up? Are those going to be engaged by the commission system, or are they exclusively player-driven sort of things?
Mm.
Is it like I'm only something that players can say, we're going to hit that corruption, we're going to hit that dungeon, we're going to go smack that local event? Or is it something that the mayor can issue an edict, hey, we need y'all to handle this is a top priority? Need corrupted zones for unique materials? Yeah, and when you use those materials for corrupted things, you also spread more corruption. Bad, bad, bad. I kill you.
yeah, I mean, I would assume that the mayor could. I don't know. We just don't know. So little about all this. I would assume that that would probably be options. If something's encroaching, um, you'll have the ability
Can
to.
we can peons make commissions to harass the mayors, run the mayor out of town?
Can you make commissions?
Lazy peon?
Oh, I don't know what.
Are you saying the streamer person, the lazy peon
Yeah.
or whatever, for them to be able to, an individual to be able to issue? I mean, you might be able to just do it as part of your stream. You won't be able to guarantee any rewards or bonus rep, but you can say, hey, I want you to give this mayor a hard time, and players can do it.
I'm just thinking that Phantom tells us that he wants to be a saboteur, and if mayors can do stuff to punish the peons for not doing what they're supposed to be, maybe peons can create commissions to punish the mayors for not doing what we want them to do.
uh, Player-driven commissions again. Yeah. I already told you my idea is to create a guild that just goes and tears down all your trees and just lets them rot. Uh, so
Sometimes the trees will rot
Well,
you.
That's something though that I think they've actually addressed. That um, once that tree is down, you would have to tap it and then just sit there until the tree disappears. Because if somebody else taps it after you've walked away, they can start chopping it up for
Oh
wood.
no, I would cut it up, but the last UI we saw, there's a delete, destroy. Uh, so
And that's something that I think is going to be oddly problematic, because if you don't have the systems to drop something in a non-destructive manner and it can be destroyed like that, that is basically a player directed sink, that I can take materials that I have and eliminate them from gameplay without actually going to a proper gameplay sink. So I do wonder if that's going to be a viable sort of thing that people can do, or if it's going to be something a little bit more limited, that instead of destroy, it'll be more of like a drop on the ground to some extent. If there's a lot of drops in a close proximity, maybe like a little hoarder pile will start appearing that has the stuff in it. Also, another thing that I've thought of, and I've thought of this for previous games as well, the idea that anything anybody drops that is dropped in what would be a destructive manner is instead fed directly to the NPCs in the region. And so the more you destroy that wood, the more the goblin camp nearby is going to start being like, oh, we've got a bunch of wood. Some dumbass has been destroying it for us. And, that's how that manifests.
Speaking of chopping wood, as we just about 2 minutes ago watched people do that in the stream in the center.
Oh, yeah.
Um, there was a discussion a few weeks ago about tree chopping aesthetics in Ashes of Creation, what it looks like in New World, what it feels like. Um, and somebody was asking to have very realistic chopping mechanics. I was like, yeah, I don't think I need to have, super detailed mechanics for chopping down a tree. But the chopping in Nightingale is pretty cool. And you do go all the way around the tree. You do see like sections of the tree getting chopped away as you're trying to make sure it doesn't fall on you and do damage. Um, but I had originally been saying in that forum post, I don't know that I need to start on one side and then move to the other side, and um, but it does actually feel kind of good just watching it happen. It's not too tedious, I don't think. And I think one of the reasons why it's not so tedious is because it just breaks apart into logs when it hits the ground, so you don't have to keep chopping afterwards. I think with PAX Day, um, we kept chopping. Like you have to make the top of the tree fall, and then the part that's on the ground, you have to chop that into logs, and you're chopping a little bit too long in PAX Day, I think. Um, What did you think? Did you have any thoughts about um, what it felt like, even comparing it to New World tree chopping? Phantom.
um, I mean, it was interesting to start with. Otherwise, after the 500th tree that you have to cut down in order to get logs for the lumber that turns into one carved stone that you need four of, so you have to cut down 20 trees to get to it. Eventually, like many things, it just sort of, I mean, it feels fine. I don't really have any complaints. I actually think the trees fall on you and they damage you, right?
Yeah, that's
Um,
what I'm saying. Yeah, that's
yeah,
part of it. You have to kind of pay attention so that.
like I've
Yep.
had that happen a couple of times where it's
Mm-hmm.
like, what the hell?
Mm-hmm.
Why did I
Mm-hmm.
just lose health? It's
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, a branch fell on my ass. Okay. Uh,
It definitely felt better than the search for burled wood in Landmark. Um, so
well, and you're not,
I don't know.
uh, you're not trying to hunt for, I mean, you know what you're getting. You're getting wood.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah.
It feels okay. I don't pay as much attention now. I guess I do for the larger trees because also there's a variety of tree sizes. like a large variety. And you can cut down any of them. So the much bigger trees, you do have to kind of go around a little bit more to make them fall. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Out of everything, that probably feels better than the ore. Pick using a mining pick. That's sometimes you swing and you miss and you don't know why you missed. So,
Mm-hmm.
or you have an animation of like hundreds of pieces of stone and you get 5. Like,
Well,
okay.
the rest of it was just styrofoam.
Yeah.
Mm.
It's like, all right. So,
Yeah, I think one of the things that I'm seeing with Nightingale is even a progression from Valheim. Um, and again, when I think about how that could relate, we hear all the time, this is why Stephen wants to move from UE4 to UE5, and a little bit beyond, is because all these tools become available, um, and makes it easier for them to program, but also makes it easier for them to give us more complicated physics, probably. Um, yeah, so it'll be interesting, especially, when it releases 5 years from now. Um, it should be like really avant-garde, cutting edge.
yeah, there are some not tree ants, but also within Nightingale, there are sort of unique, I don't know, I guess rare monsters that roam the realms. There's only one, and if you kill it, some of them you can harvest, not just um, meat and things, but I had one today that was actually a special type of wood, and that came from it. So, uh,
There was one thing with Valheim that I thought was actually pretty funny is the idea of using weaker trees to fell stronger trees because it was a funny sort of thing. Because the trees had damage, you could kill those like troll giants or whatever with them. You could use them to fall on an outcropping of stone and be able to grab the materials that it busts off of it. You could use the level 1 tree to fall in the direction of a level 2 tree and it would be just as well collectible. That was kind of a silly sort of thing. I'm not saying that's necessarily something we want here, um, but for the dynamic and physics matter sort of tree chopping and stuff, that is kind of a funny thing. The idea of using the tree, and we've talked about this before, using it as a weapon, using it as a way to blockade a road, being able, and I really hope we can do that one. Like I chop down a tree, and in the chopping process, I have selected the action make a tree trap with it. And so it takes a little bit longer, but when I'm done with it, now you've got this tree in the road that you either have to break down and get it out of the way, or you've got to go up the hill and around it like we saw them do with the caravan.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that might be why. I think Valheim might be why I was low key expecting some of these trees in Nightingale to, the bigger ones to maybe cause the smaller ones to fall when they fell. Um, it would be fascinating, and I mean, we're not too far away from it necessarily. I mean, um, it might be too uh, soon for this to be implemented in Ashes of Creation. But if we have snow falling and or the rain causing floods to happen, and that's gonna impede our traffic flow in Ashes, it would be really cool to be able to strategically chop down a tree and then use it as terrain. I've chopped down the tree and now I'm gonna uh, traverse this crevasse. Like we could be getting there in 5 years.
5 years. I keep thinking back to the fact that we're about to hit our 10-year anniversary, and
Mm-hmm.
still waiting
Mm-hmm.
on what was that original promise of EQ Next. So,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Or the idea of the, next gen MMO in general, something that goes above and beyond the spectrum first defined by Meridian 59 and well established by EverQuest, and then kind of coming to its sort of peak, I suppose, with WoW, and then kind of just being like slow little gradations up from there. That it still feels a lot more like some of the stuff from the early days with just better interface and interaction than it does something that's more persistent and dynamic like a meow.
Well, I mean, the problem for me is that it's been 10 years that I've been wanting to explore in game this concept of building your city instead of having the city already there for you. Because it seems to me that if you build the city, you're going to be invested in making sure that it doesn't get destroyed by the environment or um, by mobs or by other players. And I think that is a thing that could keep people uh, coming back, making sure that the city that they painstakingly built uh, remains vibrant. Um, and we didn't get to see that in Landmark. Um, and we haven't seen it in the other games we've been following. We've seen a lot of design, but we haven't actually got to play it even in an alpha state. So someday, 2 or 3 years from now, we'll get to jump in the game and experience that.
Sorry, having a conversation here about
Hmm.
Pantheon. So
Oh, Pantheon.
you know what? I've good for the guys developing it. I'm happy they're trying and they're moving forward and they're doing what they're doing. But uh, their whole 24/7 deal and trying to make this weird ass not MMO, I just sort of that's kind of thrown me. So, and now having this like, hey, if you spend this amount, you get 2 weeks, you get 3 weeks, you get 4 weeks, like for a game that's still in out, not even alpha yet. It's weird. I don't know. So I get it that it probably running low on funds, but anyways, this is not why we are here. So corruption
Um,
storms. All right.
yes. Um, yeah, yeah. So let's see. The last kind of question I had, and I think the answer is going to be probably nah, but maybe, but probably nah. Pursuant to the idea of a true meow, are there opportunities to help local NPCs relocate so they don't remain stuck somewhere that doesn't match their living? Like if lumberjacks find their logging camp town is now a pirate city where felling and processing trees is not as well accepted anymore, will they create a commission to leave the city for a more logging friendly town? Will NPCs want to leave that place now that the leadership has changed? So poor Jim the Bowyer doesn't have to die when the place pops over. Instead, he remains, but it's like, man, this place ain't my style. I gotta go back to the beach. I'm taking the whole family back to the beach. I need some people to protect me.
What you seem to be asking in the year of Fippy is, can we make friends with Fippy Darkpaw?
Yeah, that too. I mean, he's the true hero of the game. He's the only one that's willing to stand against monarchy with every last instance of his life, every time he gets it. He's the only one. He's the only one. Everyone else is like, oh yes, there's kings and queens, but we need to kill the dragons. It's like, yeah, no,
Mhm.
no, like, crush the system. Fippy is the true revolutionary.
But so misunderstood.
I should have gotten a Fippy when SOE Live 2014 was around. I didn't. I regret it. I thought there was going to be an SOE Live 2015. Well, they broke that. They
Which
broke. They
which
broke,
Vippy?
broke.
Like
Fippy, the Fippy Darkpod dolls that they had at
oh,
2014.
don't
Yeah.
remember that. I have some of their shirts of his, but
Yeah, actually, I was kind of thinking about that. I was putting this shirt on earlier. It's like, I know that has nothing to do with anything that we're watching, but I got this in the booth where Pentapod was stuck doing the landmark demos, and what a trooper that place! That was one hot, sweaty tent. Did not have the AC it needed. Did not have the airflow it needed, and she was like losing her voice by the end, if I remember. Well, it wasn't even the end; it was like the middle. But conducting the demos, people were seeming to enjoy it. At right outside a major game trade show, so it was cool. And this shirt wasn't from that again, but this is one of the games that was in that hot, sweaty booth where the game was being demoed. So, fun times. Oh well, at least modern medical science has advanced 10 years, so I'm not going to be like, oh, those were the good old days. Like, yeah, well, things are always getting better in other ways. Like this, we've got a game that we're looking forward to that's seemingly closer to actually being able to launch in a playable state than a bunch of demos in Landmark being called EQ Next.
And we don't have to just discuss it in text format. We can actually see each other's faces and hear each other's voices and smile and rant.
I would not want to talk about this game in old IRC chat channels. That would be a mess.
Oh, I would be there for those PvE versus PvP conversations in text form. I guess that's the
There would
forums.
be none because everybody would get banned.
I mean, we have those every day over at the forums, so maybe that's why I don't go to the forums anymore. So, all right.
So it's
Go ahead.
probably a good time for us to wrap up.
If you
Then,
got more, I've got about.
No, I don't
I got
actually. I
time.
was going to say it's probably a good time for me to think about wrapping up because I hear some buzzers going off and I gotta attend to them here.
All right. Well, everyone, thank you for joining us. We will be back here, I think, next Sunday. I don't believe any of us at this point have anything conflicting. So we all thank you, as always, for watching and hanging out with us. Join us on Discord if you want, and certainly come play some games with us. We are having a lot of fun in Nightingale. I love Skull and Bones if there's anyone who wants to be a pirate with me. As well. And so Wednesday is the next show. Not our show, the next live stream.
Yes,
for the Intrepid team. So certainly join, hang out. We'll probably be there in Twitch chat along with you, and then be back here next Sunday to chat about it. So everyone have a great week, and we will see you soon.
Till then, everybody, have a good one.